Thank you for the click. My name is Luxeley, and today we're going to upload all three hunter specialization specs have been covered. Last but not least, here's survival. If you like the video, leave a like. It makes me happy, and surveys say it's a lot cheaper than donating to my Patreon. Keep in mind, this is not a guide. I will probably do a guide, but for now, this is just to give people an idea of where the survival specialization stands as you break it down into 6 different categories: single target damage, AOE damage, crowd control, survivability, which is a mix of both your heals and your defenses, mobility, which is your ability to get yourself out of harm's way in this case, and last but not least, utility, of which I'll tell you right here and now. Hunters have quite a bit with the addition of pet abilities and pet passives and pet actives, etc., etc. Utility isn't about single target damage. It's not about AOE damage. It's about what it is that you bring to a group that makes that group say, hey, we got to get ourselves a hunter or a survival hunter. Now, I am heavily weighing in on 2 factors here. One, when I break down each category, I'm going to ask the question, is this better than it was in Legion, or is it better now in BFA? That's the first question. The second question is, how does survival compare to other ranged DPS specs, even other melee specs? I'm ranking each category like I'd rank a movie, 1 through 5. 1 means that we could somewhere along the line expect some kind of a buff. You're a bit weak, underpowered, expect a buff. 5 means that you're overpowered, you're pissing a lot of people off, and sooner or later the nerf bat's going to hit you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I do respond to comments, provided people speak intelligently and treat me as well as other people with respect. I honestly believe if you could take a few minutes, watch one of my videos, I could certainly take a few seconds and respond. Here we go. Single target damage. Before I rattle off what's new, what's returning, what's been a little bit tweaked, I want to point out my weapon is a very, very low eye level for level 116, so I'm not hitting mobs as hard as I should. It's lowest possible eye level on the beta, actually. It's because I've been playing mostly BM and MM up until this point. I went to buy an upgrade on the auction house, but they're a little bit out of my price range. Idiots. I don't know what's more idiotic: overpricing a green item, expecting someone on the beta to have a couple 100,000 gold, or earning gold that you're not going to be able to keep. Moving on, Raptor Strike returns, everything else is gone. That's pretty much the case. Flanking Strike and Mongoose Bite move over to the same tier on the talent tree, tier 90. Flanking Strike is a little bit different from Legion. The ability generates focus rather than cost focus and leaps you and your pet to the target, 15-yard range, 40-second cooldown. Wildfire Bomb essentially replaces Explosive Trap, which is basically a name change, nothing more. Maybe we should charge Blizzard for the name change. They charge us. I don't know. Moving on. The baseline abilities that are new include Kill Command. I know it used to be a BM ability. It still is, but this is new to survival. Generates focus on a 5.5-second cooldown, and the cooldown can be procced for a reset, which is pretty cool. 3 talents can inject some steroids into Kill Command. Alpha Predator, 2 charges, and 30% increased damage. Tip of the Spear, Kill Command increases your damage of your next Raptor Strike by 15%, stacks up to 3 times, so you're looking at a 45% increase in damage on your next Raptor Strike. Bloodseeker adds bleed damage to Kill Command, and it increases you and your pet's attack speed by 10% for every bleeding enemy. Now, there's also level 100 talent called Wildfire Infusion. What it essentially does, when you use Wildfire Bomb, it puts a fire dot on a target, and then depending on what ability you use, and I believe there's other random elements, you get a benefit. One of those benefits is a bleed dot is added to your carve, which is the best way of spreading the bleed. So that's a way that you're going to get more bleed damage to more targets, get better attack speed. More on that in the AOE part of the video. By the way, all the aforementioned talents that do enhance Kill Command are located on different tiers. Therefore, you could have them all. You can be greedy, have them all. Serpent Sting. Small nature damage on hit and a poison dot. Viper's Venom. Raptor Strike has a chance to make your next Serpent Sting cost no focus and deal 300% additional initial damage. Hydra's Bite, which I'll go into greater depth in the AOE part of the video, also can enhance your Serpent Sting. Now, I'll rattle off all of the talents Blizzard pruned. Hopefully, I'll have as much fun as Blizzard did deleting them, but I doubt it. Animal Instincts. Throwing Axes. Way of the Mach Natal. Mortal Wounds, Snake Hunter, Cat Drops, Stinky Bomb, Ranger's Net, and Aspect of the Beast. Poof, poof, they're gone. Aspect of the Eagle has been split into two separate abilities, Aspect of the Eagle and Coordinated Attack. Aspect of the Eagle increases the range of your Raptor Strike to 40 yards for 15 seconds, 1.5 minute cooldown. Coordinated Assault, 2-minute cooldown. You and your pet do 20% increased damage for 20 seconds. And there's also an increased chance to reset your kill command by 25%. The new talent Chakrams is another ranged attack, which is very similar animation to the old Hunter talent, Glaive Toss, or Hunter ability. I believe it was a talent. Your former artifact ability, Fist of Fury with a polearm, aka Fury of the Eagle, is gone. Other relevant artifact abilities that are no longer part of your arsenal, Echoes of Onera, gave Flanking Strike a 20% chance to proc this spirit that did some smite damage, gone. Aspect of the Skylord gave your Aspect of the Eagle a 30% damage boost. Now, Coordinated Attack does replace it, but the damage is 10% less. Sounds kind of bummy, but the reality is we're seeing these losses in these short-term buffs across the board in BFA for all classes. So just like a rising tide lifts all boats, a low tide sinks all boats. There is a new mastery called Spirit Bond, but this section went a little long, and it does also have a lot of relevance to the survivability part of the video, so I'll go into the mastery there. I really like the idea of backing off from a target with Aspect of the Eagle and dealing damage from range. This works really well in both PvP and PvE. In a particular boss fight, when the melee boss might be raging, you could back off and still keep some pressure. Same thing in PvP when maybe a Death Knight hits Remorseless Winter or Pillars of Frost. Demon Hunter does his thing with Nemesis. Paladin with his wings. You can just back off a little bit and not take the brunt of the damage and not blow a defensive cooldown. Single target damage is actually pretty good. I'll give it a solid 4. AOE damage. Baseline abilities include Carve and the new ability Wildfire Bomb, which is Explosive Trap with a name change. And I'll say it again, we should charge Blizzard for the $10 microtransaction. There are quite a few talents, both new and old, that increase your AoE damage. Chakrams throw a pair of chakrams, slicing all enemies in its path. Very, very similar to the old talent Glaive Toss. Does the same thing, has the same animation, except Glaive Toss used to put a stare on a target, Chakrams does not. Butchery. Strike all nearby enemies in a flurry of strikes for physical damage. 3 charges, 8-second cooldown, replaces Carve. In other words, Butchery puts Carve on steroids. Hydra's Bite. Serpent Sting fires additional arrows at 2 additional enemies, and dot damage is increased by 10%. If you also choose the talent Viper's Venom, Raptor Strike has a chance to make your next Serpent Sting cost no focus and deal 300% additional initial damage. And yes, the combo of the two, Hydra's Bite and Viper's Venom, work in sync very, very well. Here's the deal. The AoE is better than you might expect, if and only if you go with Viper's Venom and Hydra's Bite, simply because the procs are quite a bit. The procs that you get from Viper's Venom do occur quite a bit. Unfortunately, Hydra's Bite is up against Butchery, which is a little bit problematic, and the numbers need to be crunched. Right now, Hydra's Bite looks like it's better, but of course, that can and probably will change. In a perfect World of Warcraft, you could have both abilities, then you top the damage charts with AoE, without a doubt. People would be envious. They'd take pictures and send it through social media, or maybe not, who knows. AoE might be slightly better than Legion, but it wasn't really that great in Legion in the first place. Here and now in the BFA beta, you stand in the middle of the pack as far as AoE damage is concerned. You're slightly better than Legion, and like I said, it wasn't that great in Legion, and there are probably just as many classes out there and specs out there that'll do better AoE damage, and just as many that are going to do worse. You're dead in the middle. I give AoE damage for survival a 3.5. Crowd control. 2 reasons why I didn't play a whole lot of survival during Legion. 1, when you went up against Plate, they possessed a stun, you did not. That meant they could damage you through their stun, which could be anywhere from 3 to 5 to 8 seconds, and that gave them an edge. In the immortal words of Batman, the original Batman, Michael Keaton, things change. Intimidation is now a baseline stun for survival. Yes, I'd rather have the ability that I could use rather than my pet, but this is better than nothing and certainly an improvement from Legion. 2, you're dealing physical damage versus plate, they're dealing damage versus mail. The math works significantly in their favor. Yes, in Legion, you did possess a few abilities that offered non-physical damage, but your big hard-hitting abilities, physical damage. In BFA, you possess a little bit more non-physical damage, maybe enough to make a difference, maybe not. We'll find out soon enough. I'd love to test this out, but that would require spamming a few BGs to really be thorough, and I can't wait around. I can't wait around 30 minutes for a BG queue. Wing Clip, Freezing Trap, and Tar Trap return for an encore in BFA. The talent Steel Trap gives you another CC with dot damage, and Binding Shot finds a spot in the survival talent tree in BFA as well. Instead of stunning the target, Binding Shot will root the target. Not a big deal versus melee. The root gets the job done. That's the bottom line. And there are certain situations where the root might be better than a stun. Melee hates roots. Just ask them. Trust me, they hate roots. It is a little bit of a big deal versus casters and healers. Then again, half the time you'll be using Binding Shot as a way of catching a target or landing a trap rather than CCing one. Not all the time, but some of the time you'll be doing that. And now for some fun news. Survival gains access to Explosive Trap as a PvP talent, which means, you guessed it, knockbacks and lots of them. Think of the possibilities here. You can pop an Explosive Trap, then disengage and either run away, reset the fight, or CC the target. Huge. Huge, huge, huge. Tracker's Net, a returning PvP talent, roots targets and helps you land traps with greater accuracy, as does Binding Shot. There's a lot of creativity here. And I like creativity. In theory, with a little bit of timing and skill, you can CC 2 targets at once with Freezing Trap and Steel Trap. Also, the addition of a baseline stun is precisely what the doctor ordered for improvement. Overall, I give Survival Crowd Control a solid 4.5. Survivability. Put on your shades. Things in the survivability category are about to get bright and shiny. The big change here, the mastery. Survival's new mastery, Spirit Bond, does precisely what the old Hunter ability of the same name did, and a little bit more. Focus bending abilities deal 20% increased damage. Of course, the percentage scales with additional mastery, and while your pet is active, you and your pet generate 3% max health every 5 seconds. The latter is a perk the other 2 Hunter specs do not have. Exhilaration is a very reliable heal, and the talent Natural Mending reduces the remaining cooldown by 1 second for every 20 focus spent. Up against Natural Mending on tier 45 is Camouflage, a heal over time, as well as a stealth, probably more of a PvP focused type of talent. The talent choice on tier 45 puts you in the rather unfriendly world of tough and unnecessary choices, brought to you by Blizzard. Rounding out your defenses, Aspect of the Turtle reduces damage by 30% for 8 seconds on a 3-minute cooldown. Long CD, but the cooldown can be lowered by 20% with the talent Born to be Wild. It's definitely a talent you should probably consider taking for survival because it also lowers the cooldown of Aspect of the Cheetah as well as Aspect of the Eagle. The PvP talent Survival Tactics Feign Death removes all harmful magic effects and reduces damage taken by 99% for 1.5 seconds. Even without the PvP talent, Feign Death, if used in a timely fashion, can add to your overall survivability. Another new talent, well, not exactly new, used to be a pet ability. Roar of Sacrifice protects you from crit strikes for 12 seconds, but 20% of all damage is transferred to your pet. One minor loss here, the artifact trait Bird of Prey, Raptor Strike heals you for 40% of the damage done. It's really not a huge loss, but I just mentioned it for the sake of being thorough. The reality is, in Legion, you use Mongoose Bite a lot more than you ended up using Raptor Strike, so this isn't a major loss. Overall, I give your survivability a solid 4. I give it a 4.5 if that Aspect of the Turtle cooldown was lower. I think it should be lower, probably 2 minutes for all hunters. 3 is a bit high. Mobility. Survival's mobility is definitely not as good as most other melee, particularly Havoc and Windwalker. To improve your mobility, you will need to be timely and efficient with your traps because they'll root and snare your foes. That's the key. It's not really in the legs, it's in the traps. There is a bit of a skill curve here, not a lot, but enough to be noticeable. Aspect of the cheetah returns and the cooldown can be lowered by Born to be Wild. The PvP talent, Hunting Pack, reduces the cooldown of cheetah by an additional 50% and spreads the speed boost to other allies within 15 yards. Now, the combo of the two aforementioned talents lowers aspect of the cheetah's cooldown from 3 minutes to 1.2 minutes. I wish something could do the same for aspect of the turtle, and maybe in my dreams. Disengage is now a baseline ability and adds to your mobility. Keep in mind, disengage is off the GCD, which means you can perfectly macro it with wing clip. So quick snare, disengage, works really well. Post haste adds a 50% speed boost to your disengage for 4 seconds. Unfortunately, post haste is on the same exact tier as binding shot, tier 75. Harpoon is your trusty gap closer, a 3 to 30 yard range, 20-second cooldown, and it also roots your target. The T15 talent, Terms of Endearment, not a bad movie by the way, makes Harpoon deal physical damage, quite a bit of physical damage actually, and generate 40 focus over 10 seconds. Even the talent Flanking Strike gives you and your pet a 15-yard leap every 40 seconds. So you have that disengage and then Flanking Strike to re-engage. Your mobility is average at best, but I kind of have to put an asterisk here because you do have that capability, that flexibility of playing pure melee and then backing off when things get hot and heavy. And that does obviously factor into your mobility. I'd give it a solid 3, but you do possess that flexibility, like I said, because you can play from range. You're not doing that hardcore damage, but you are still maintaining pressure, and your pet is probably on the target as well. I would probably bump it up another grade or a half a point just because of that to about a 3.5. Utility. The majority of your utility comes from your pets. Yes, pets are meaningful. Again, that makes me kind of happy. It really does. Each pet type, ferocity, tenacity, and cunning, offers an on-use ability as well as a passive ability. Rather than tell you, I'm going to show you, put it all together into graphics. There you go. Most pets also will provide you with additional CC or utility. Various pet abilities include a 50% snare, which is kind of ridiculous because the reality is you have Tar Trap and you also have Wing Clip, so a third snare, really. Mortal Wounds, heal debuff, obviously very, very huge in PvP. Slow Fall, Dispel, and of course, a Battle Res. Switching pets offers quite a bit of flexibility as well. Not sure you'll be able to do that in Arena. My guess is no. Same as it ever was. Probably not something you're going to be able to do in Arena. But you should be able to do it in Mythic Plus and obviously Raids. Even the old school baseline ability Flare offers quite a bit of utility in a very situational sort of way. As far as PvP talents, Hunting Pack reduces the cooldown of aspect of the cheetah and spreads the love or the speed boost to other nearby allies. Your 3 sting shots, Spider Sting, Scorpion Sting, and Viper Sting, brings some kind of utility into any given match for PvP, obviously. Use Spider versus Caster DPS, Scorpion versus Melee, and Viper versus Healers. I would rather see something, I think, with a little bit more punch, but this is still better than nothing. All 3 Hunter specs offer better utility than Legion and most other DPS in BFA. I give Survivability utility a solid 4. In conclusion, Blizzard reworked Survival, added quite a bit of fun and utility. Survival is one of the more polished, creative specs out there, and it possesses a little bit of everything. If you're like me and you do enjoy quite a few tricks in your utility belt, you're definitely going to like the changes with Survival. This is Luxeley, and I'm telling you, whatever it is, by you, whether it's morning, it's afternoon, or it's night, make it epic.